The cat had been sitting on Marcus's chest since 3 in the morning. Not lying, sitting. The particular upright posture of a cat that has decided something and is waiting for the humans to catch up. Marcus was a social worker. He had a background in crisis intervention and had spent 15 years developing the ability to read people in distress, to identify the specific behavioral signals that indicated something was wrong underneath the ordinary presentation of ordinary life. He was, in his professional estimation, good at this. He was not awake at 3 in the morning. He was somewhere past his first sleep cycle and firmly into the second, and the weight of an 8-pound tabby cat on his sternum was not something he registered for the first several minutes. Then he registered it. His name was Sable. She was 6 years old. She had never sat on his chest before. She was not the sort of cat that sat on people. She had a specific relationship with proximity that involved being in the same room as a human without being on the human, a distinction she maintained with the principled consistency of something that has thought about it and arrived at a conclusion. She was sitting on his chest. He said her name. She looked at him and did not move. He sat up. She jumped down and went to the door of the adjacent room where his 11-month-old daughter was sleeping, and sat down and looked back at him. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you are in the right place. Subscribe so you do not miss the next one. He had heard nothing from the monitor on the nightstand. He checked the monitor. The audio was working. He could hear the ambient sound of the room, the white noise machine they ran for her. He could also, now that he was listening specifically, hear something else. The breathing, faster than it should be. Not dramatically, not the obvious laboring that would have woken him, but elevated, the kind of elevated that was measurable rather than audible unless you were listening for it. He got up. She had a temperature of 103.1. Her breathing rate was elevated. Her color was normal. Her oxygen saturation, when he checked it with the pulse oximeter they kept in the room, was at the lower edge of normal. He called the after-hours pediatric line. The nurse on the line asked questions and listened to his answers and said, "The combination of fever and elevated breathing rate in an infant this age warrants being seen." She said, "Come in." They went in. The diagnosis was RSV, the respiratory virus that moves through every infant's first winter, that is benign in most cases and significant in some, and that, in his daughter's case, had been progressing through the night toward the category that warranted the monitoring they were now doing in the children's hospital, where they stayed for 2 days while she improved. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. The pediatric resident who reviewed the case told Marcus that what had prompted them to come in, the elevated respiratory rate he had noticed when he was already awake, had been a useful indicator that was easy to miss without a reason to check. He said parents who come in early in RSV cases have better outcomes than parents who come in late. He said, "You came in at the right time." Marcus said, "The cat woke me up." The resident was 28, and in his second year, and had the particular open quality of someone who had not yet acquired the professional reflex of dismissing things that did not fit the clinical framework. He asked Marcus to describe what the cat had done. Marcus described it. The resident wrote something in his notes and said, "There are documented cases of cats alerting to respiratory distress in sleeping humans and infants." Cats have significant olfactory sensitivity to the metabolic byproducts of elevated respiration and elevated temperature. Whether they understand what they're detecting or simply respond to the change in the environmental scent profile is not clear. He said, "The outcome in this case is that she came in at the right time. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one." They went home. 2 days later, Sable was at the top of the stairs when they arrived, which was her standard position for observing arrivals and departures from the house. She assessed the situation. She looked at the baby in the carrier. She looked at Marcus. She turned and walked back down the hall to her spot on the window seat in the bedroom, and resumed looking out the window. Marcus stood in the hallway and watched her and thought about the specific quality of her sitting on his chest. At 3 in the morning, the uprightness of it, the deliberateness, the unwillingness to move until he moved. He was a crisis interventionist. He knew how to recognize when something was wrong. He also knew, from 15 years of working in crisis, that the people who caught things early were not always the people with the most information. They were the people who were paying attention. He looked at Sable on the window seat. He had been paying attention longer